Tallahassee, Big Bend area sports fans, welcome to another edition of the Extra Point. I'm Mark Adams, and I'm here with my tag team partner, Coach Johnny Cofield. Coach, what's going on?
What's up, Mark? Another great week of football, man. I'm loving it. We're on the other side now.
Yeah, another week of football indeed, and we're now in week number 6. And really for a lot of teams in the Big Bend, it just we keep realizing who the real contenders are, and they're separating themselves from everybody else in the pack. And the crowd is starting to get thinned out here as we get to the latter part of the season. Really, when you look at a lot of teams are really going into a must-win situation going into next week if they want to be able to establish themselves, at least have a positive showing when it comes to the playoff selection time. For all teams, basically, it's win and you're in. But for a couple of our teams in lower classifications, it really does matter. RPIs are really kind of, I'm just going to be honest, a lot of the RPIs are really some head scratches. We're not really sure exactly how, we know how the math works, but we're not really sure how it's being applied in certain areas, and it really has turned some things upside down. But again, if you're winning your football games, you got your best opportunities ahead of you to be able to make a run for the playoffs. So, Coach, let's go ahead and jump into the week number 6 rewind. Lincoln Trojans traveling out to Gaston County, which is turning into quite a tough place to play as of late. The Jaguars really are really an upstart team right now with a lot of youth, and they show plenty of promise. Lincoln Trojans can't outdo that Trojan magic. It takes effect again late in the ball game as Lincoln is able to edge Gaston County 14-10. Really was an exciting game, a really defensive battle. Midway through the game, it looked as if Gaston County was going to hold on and win that when they were up 10-7 throughout most of the ball game. And then, of course, Lincoln quarterback Perry Fisher was able to use his legs to be able to guide the Lincoln Trojans to victory. Also played a little bit of defense, had an interception that went 96 yards on that interception return. But Perry Fisher did what he had to do. Was not 13 of 26 for 176 yards passing and scored 2 touchdowns. And those basically were the scores that Lincoln needed in order to be able to escape out of Gaston County, including the game winner. Wide receiver Javon Petway caught a couple of those passes, 4 of them actually for 75 yards. And then linebacker Lamarion LaRoche led the defense for the Trojans. Really key defensive plays, was able to keep Lincoln kind of in that ball game, keeping Gaston County out of that end zone. He had 13 tackles, and along with defensive back Tamari Wright had 3 sacks from the cornerback position. So that's a great defensive effort for Lincoln as they were able to escape with the win. Not wanting to overlook the Jags. They had a couple of bright spots, like running back Cedric Bird rushed for 101 yards on 10 carries. And I know he would like to get a few more of those carries. Maybe that would have made the difference if they had been able to get him in the end zone just once more. But a great game. Corey Fuller's bunch showed plenty of promise, just weren't able to hang on in the end. And I guess that's what young guys got to learn. They got to go through kind of the process, as it were, and being able to close out some games.
Yeah, Mark, it's tough going through. You got to learn to win. And the Jaguars have a young bunch, but they played a team opponent that is pretty good. They played some great competition, and going into Jaguar Stadium, I think the guys did very well, because of coming out with a victory is tough. Corey Fuller is going to have his kids ready to play anytime they line up on the field. So you're going in there, you're not going to have an easy go at it. Don't look at the record. They played some high-quality competition, and they came out a little short again this week. But the Lincoln Trojans, they trying to make it to the playoffs, and they need to win and to help. What we talked about is the RPI, which I don't really understand it, but
it's not mysterious. It's just more so it's being applied, and understanding that some teams with losing records have not played the same amount of games as some teams with winning records, and we're seeing some disparities here. But Again, this is why we play the game. Again, it's winning you're in if you're in the lower classification. So let's keep it rolling. An exciting matchup over on the north side of the capital city in Tallahassee, NFC taking on McClay. And this is a budding rivalry. I really like this game when it comes up on the schedule. These teams go at it with a lot of emotion, a lot of heart. And, man, it was a game. NFC was able to edge McClay, and McClay probably arguably played one of the best games that they've had all season long. Marauders held on, really were holding off NFC for the better part of 3.5 quarters until late game heroics by that bad man. We talked about him before. NFC athlete Traylon Ray, specialist at the wide receiver position, had a 99-yard punt return, and it was unreal, Coach. We watched it right there as we were streaming the game live. Kind of made a nifty move to break his coverage, not to break his coverage, but had blockers coming around the corner. He just took it the distance, and it just kind of broke the hearts and the backs of the McClay defense that had played really lights out. Shane Crossan for the Marauders had 2 interceptions, which kind of shows you how they put NFC on their heels. But JP Pickles, again, was able to do enough from the quarterback position, threw for 130 yards, and he and Jalen Harris, who had a really big reception coming down the stretch for the Eagles, kind of set them up nicely for the go-ahead score. Pickles, once again, did not come off the field, led all defenders with 21 tackles at the linebacker position, and really just was a really good effort on behalf of both teams' defenses to kind of keep them in the game. McClay played an absolutely a well-coached game, a well-schemed game. They kind of ran the ball pretty well going down the stretch. And Cofield, we saw really just was a chess match going into the third and fourth quarters between Coach Hill and Coach Raymer.
Yeah, Mark, that was one of the best games I've seen McClay. We are at most all their games, and that was one of the best coached games I thought I've seen all year. They had NFC for 3.5 quarters. I mean, they couldn't do anything, and with the great play of Ray, I can imagine being the coach because the punt rolled. It rolled to the 1 yard line, and if I'm a coach, I'm like, no. And then when he picked it up and he started going down the sideline, they were like, yeah. And he was the difference in the game, making big play after big play. And Mr. Pickles is always on defense and offense. I know he gets his rest on Friday night. He's probably going to bed after that game because he never leaves the field. And I think they played a strategic game, staying close and then come and pull it out at the end, because if you're there in the first half, because I think it was 13-0 at halftime, and they came back and took the lead in the second half, and another great play by Ray on a route to Hutchins. It looked like it was a perfect play for a touchdown. He came out of nowhere and knocked it down. So
yeah, put the clamps on at the very end, and Hutchins had a great game himself. Had a step, half a step beat on Traylon Ray, and Ray just stretched out, and right as the ball was getting ready, it was a good ball too. Just it's one of those plays where you see it and you got that half a second window to make that throw. Grant, who also had a rushing touchdown, played an outstanding game too at quarterback for McClay. Just saw that opening, saw Hutchin with a half a step window and placed a very good ball out there. Ray just made an excellent defensive play, knocking it out of his hands. And that just really kind of surmised McClay just didn't make enough plays coming down the stretch. Was excellent running the ball between the tackles, and a tough defeat for them. As the Marauders fall to 1-3 on the year, and NFC surprisingly sitting at 5-1. These are the games you got to win. Win is a win, no matter how you're able to pull it out. And they're small in numbers this year, but they're still making a difference. Meanwhile, another epic ball game down in Crawfordville. Florida High goes and does something that many teams don't get a chance to do, and that's win in Crawfordville. Able to come back and get the dub at Wakulla. 28-24, and really it was an exciting game as the Seminoles moved to 5-1 on the year, while Color falling to 2-2. War Eagles were off the week before, so they had a chance to rest up a little bit and kind of prepare for the Seminoles. And man, great efforts by the Florida High offense coming down the stretch. Let's talk about Brooks Hickman had 119 yards receiving on 9 catches. Ryder Popper, we've called his name every week this week, had 89 yards and another score. And then Drew Farrell was 21-27. Really good outing for him, 242 yards passing and a score. Also rushed for 72 yards and another TD. And really, these are your playmakers stepping up and making plays in a game where, it's really kind of crucial for the War Eagles and for the Seminoles. And Florida High was just able to, edge them out and to come from behind win. It was really exciting down in Crawfordville. And these are really, the games where you're starting to see your contenders emerge a little bit.
Mark, it seemed like every week we talk about the same guys. Every week we talk about the guys making the plays. And it's always most of the time it's the same people. And this is no different when you talk about the Florida State University High School, and better known as Florida High, playing a tough opponent at home in Wakulla War Eagles, which is, it's not very many teams go in there and come out with a victory. And they did a great job. But following the scores earlier, Wakulla led most of this game, and then once again the team Florida High came back at the end and took the lead and never gave it up. So you talk about a Florida High team we had previously at number 1, and they came out with a victory in a tough place. And maybe I think we had some comments. Somebody said, "Hey, why you move them down?" But it's tough when you lose to 1A school and don't become the team you expect to come. And I know going back to back playing in Boo Hill, then going to Wakulla got to be one of the toughest runs you can have. And I think Coach Hickman is preparing his team for the playoffs by playing in these tough and difficult places.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the way War Eagles didn't play a bad game, just didn't make enough plays coming down the stretch. And this is where you see these exciting games that happen because, there are playmakers on both sides of the ball that are, looking for these mixed matches and these kind of separations in the game. And it's just a matter of, one missed opportunity here and there for Wakulla. I'm sure they like to have a couple of third downs back. But, this is Florida High doing what they do best, putting the ball in the hands of their playmakers, and they're getting the job done. Monroe, undefeated no more. In 15 regular season games, Bobcats were perfect. And that streak ends where Altuga Academy comes in to Quincy and downs Monroe 21-12. And really, just failing to score at the 4-yard line with 1st and goal. Really just kind of doomed the Bobcats. Just Altuga's defense is a little bit too much, and then the missed 2-point conversion just kind of put them out too far out of contention. Really played a competitive game against the Generals, but the Bobcats just didn't have enough firepower. Running back Austin Perkins was a bright spot for the Bobcats on the offense with 148 yards rushing on 10 carries and a touchdown. In addition to having 40 yards receiving, also had ripped off an 80-yard run for the Bobcats. So, just looking at those missed opportunities there, they definitely hurt you coming down the stretch. But, man, this is a team that's still on the rise, an epic turnaround coming back from 3 years ago where they were just kind of non-existent. And, really they've gotten some talent there at the school, and they're really poised to be one of the more dominant teams in 2A moving forward. And these are just some of the schools that you play. You take your lumps along with a lot of other programs, when you play tougher schools. Defensive back CJ Figures and Caleb Barnes both had 9 tackles apiece, and the defense tallied 5 sacks. So they're definitely good key components there for the Bobcats. Just wasn't enough against Altuga.
Yeah, Mark, they step up in competition, which once again is helping everybody get ready for the playoffs, because you're gonna meet the best of the best when you get in the playoffs, and it's a different animal. And playing these kind of games helps your team down the road. You might have gotten a loss, but you might have learned something about your team. Sometimes playing a better competition exposes some weaknesses you didn't recognize during the season. And so that will help you down the road. And I think they did a great job because that team was undefeated, one of the best teams in Alabama, and they stood toe to toe with them. I think Coach Lackey would be very happy with the results if they had won, but he probably satisfied. And so, and you kind of used it as a measuring stick on where your team is for this season.
Okay, Charles Timberwolves get a big win, a big district win over Ocala Forest, moving to 2-4 on the year. Big 45-14 win. Timberwolves just too much offense. Pulled away from Forest. Pulled away from Forest in the third quarter with 27 unanswered points, and really on the legs of Travis Jones. Scored 2 touchdowns from 20 and 31 yards in that big district win for the Charles Timberwolves. Going out to the Panhandle, Holmes County best Bluntstown 21-20 in a hard-fought emotional game. Tigers just couldn't overcome the turnovers and miscues and fall to the Blue Devils by 1, and kind of had a position where they were close. Earlier on in the game, they had a missed field goal attempt that could have turned the tide and made the difference for them going down the stretch, and just wasn't enough to be able to overcome some miscues. And like you said, turnovers just kind of kill you when you're playing teams like that. And then Holmes County quietly 5-1. They're shaping up to be one of the more dominant teams in 1A. 1A is going to be definitely entertaining going down the stretch this year. Quarterback for the Tigers, Josh Pope, was 7-12 for 115 yards passing. And a score. FSU commit and wide receiver Jordan Pryor has 62 yards receiving on 4 catches for the Tigers. So another set of Tigers, meanwhile, back in the capital city, Jefferson County Tigers, turning things around here with their second win of the season. They moved to 2-3 with a big shutout win over FAMU High on the road, 41-0 over the winless Baby Rattlers, who are 0-4 right now, and just had their way with FAMU High's defense. Just a great offensive night for Jefferson County. Running back Tyron Dasher had 108 yards on 11 carries and 1 touchdown. And we talked about this kid now for the third week in a row. Athlete Delvin Chambers had a 71-yard punt return for a score. Najee Kosi led the defense with 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, and a fumble recovery for a touchdown in that big win for Jefferson County. So congrats to them and Coach Reynolds on a big win. Coach Reynolds had a little bit of a homecoming, and I'm sure it was good to be able to pick up a win in a place where he's had success before. And Jefferson County has quietly moved into a 2-3 record, and hopefully they'll be able to keep the ball rolling. Meanwhile, around the capital city, Rickards stays true to their winning ways, moving to 4-1 on the year with a big 47-14 win over Fort Walton Beach, who's at 1-4. Raiders just dominated. The referee blew the opening whistle, and it was all Rickards all the time after that. Athlete Rico Watkins led the offense with 6 receptions for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. And linebacker Davian Jenkins helped power the defense for Rickards with 16 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 sack. So he was very busy that night for the Raiders. And for Rickards, this is just business as usual as they're moving through their season. They've got a tough test coming up later on in the year, but so far they're sitting pretty good. Madison County falls in a close one to Denellian, 26-28, and really just a missed 2-point conversion attempt that would have been the tying score just falls incomplete, and Madison County drops another one to a very tough Denellian team, 28-26. A little bit of history. Denellian has done something very few teams have done. They've gone into Boot Hill, and I believe that's the 4th. Got the 4th regular season win in the past 2 decades at Boot Hill. And if that doesn't tell you anything, that's just a tough place to play. And they were able to do it just on the strength of a very good running game. Not without their own bright spots. Running backs for the Cowboys, Jamie Hampton and Tommy House, each rushed for 100 yards apiece and 3 touchdowns combined. Wide receiver Jonathan Atkins had 2 catches for 60 yards in the TD. So, Coach, some great games from around the area. We're just seeing, just this is how it goes down, where it's just having these teams that are being so close in the game and just a few mistakes here and there, turnovers, miscues just cost you some really good opportunities.
Well, Mark, when you're playing this game, mistakes are what kills you. It can help you on the defensive side, but on offense, if you turn the ball over, you help the other team. It makes the difference. I can remember when we played in the state championship team, they hadn't fumbled very much all year long. I think we had like 3 fumbles on them, and it was the difference in the football game.
So, yeah, a lot of teams at this point in the season, you really hoping that you stay healthy, because this is the stretch where, you really start to hit your stride. And, it really does matter when you can't you can't convert in the red zone, turnovers, miscues like that. They really cost you sometimes moving down the stretch. Osceola, a big winner over Franklin County, 25-6. Osceola moving to 4-1 on the year. And a great rebound win over Franklin County. Warrior QB Trip Joyner was 9 of 16 for 126 yards passing and 1 touchdown. And then Jace Grant, got to talk about this kid. Another one of those well-conditioned athletes, never coming off the field. Ran for 200 yards and 2 scores on 19 carries. Also had 35 yards receiving and another touchdown. Then on defense, had 12 tackles to help lead the Warrior defense, 1 tackle for a loss and 1 fumble recovery on a great night by Jace Grant and the Warriors in that big win over Franklin County. Then Sneeds bouncing back against winless Gracefield. They moved to 3-2 on the year with a 41-20 victory. Tyrell McMillan had 2 carries for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns.
2 carries?
That's what it says. 2 carries for 108 yards.
Saying, man.
Touchdowns.
Yeah, one heck of a night, man.
Yep. Amarian Johnson led the defense with 12 tackles and 3 tackles for a loss, 1 punt block, and defensive lineman Aaron Williams had 3 tackles for a loss. Taylor Brown also had 2 touchdowns rushing, and we talked about being able to be effective. When you get it done just on 2 carries, you're really doing something. Was also 1 for 3 passing for 18 yards, and then on defense had 3 tackles and a pass breakup. So a great night for Sneeze as they rebound in a big way over Graceville. Some other scores from around the area: West Florida, Downs Godby. Cougars still sitting winless. Hopefully they'll get an opportunity later on this season. Falling to West Florida 47-26 or 28 on the road. Also falling on the road was Leon as they go down to Gainesville Buchholz and fall 49-3. Other scores from around the area: Hawthorne beat Swanee 32-16. Bulldogs in a little bit of a slump right now as they're trying to piece together some things midway through the season. And Lafayette gets another win over Brantford 27-12. And that's your rewind.